Another coach joins the unemployment line. Brian Kelly, fired by LSU, and Jonathan Smith at Michigan State could be joining him just as well.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is right. It is a Locked On Crossover to talk all things Big Ten. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm the host of On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers, your daily sources for all things Penn State and Indiana. But we do this weekly to catch you up on all things Big Ten related. We'll make our Week 10. Can you believe it? Week 10 predictions later on, go through game by game. And we've been pretty correct, honestly. You should listen to what we say about those games. James Franklin could be staying in the Big Ten. Brian Kelly could be joining the Big Ten as the coaching carousel just spins and spins and spins. But we got to go outside of the conference, actually, as we start this conversation, because Brian Kelly, now, again, it's relevant because he could be joining the Big Ten as he's loosely linked to Michigan State. It's James Franklin, same thing. But Brian Kelly being fired by LSU, and Jacob, who knows? Hugh Freeze could be fired by Auburn, right? Florida fired Billy Napier. This is just such an unprecedented cycle that we got to address it across the board with how many coaches are unemployed and how much change we're going to see all across college football.
I mean, we have officially, Zach, set a record for the amount of coaches fired in college football before the end of October. Congratulations,
everybody. Good job, everybody.
Nice job to 2025. We've set another record this time for coaches fired. And I can't remember the number, but we're approaching over $200 million in buyout money being paid right now.
Jump change.
Look, you have that just on under your mattress, right? I mean, it's absurd to look at the narrative and the landscape of college football where Penn State's willing to pay $50-60 million to get their guy out. Brian Kelly's out of LSU, and I know they're still trying to figure out buyout terms down there. Arkansas fires their coach. UCLA fires their coach. Oklahoma State fires County. I mean, it's crazy to see what's going on right now. And you said it, we're not done. We're not done. We have more to go and more changes to be made. And there's different stages of this, right? You have an LSU or a Penn State that just completely fires their coach. But you have a lot of schools too, like a Missouri or a Wisconsin or teams like that, where their coach could leave to go somewhere else. I've seen LSU and Florida fans talking like they want Luke Fickell. Don't know why you would, but they've talked about it. I've seen Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri be linked to different jobs. I'm not totally sold on that, but it's a possibility, right? So there's those schools too. Indiana was in the mix for a second. Then you locked down Kurt Signetti. And then you have teams that just don't know what to do, like Michigan State, who we're talking about today a little bit. Jeez. What do you do? I mean, you go get Jonathan Smith in less than 2 years. It's a total disaster. It's a disaster. So yeah, college football is broken. Fan bases are more impatient than they've ever been, but you can get better faster than ever. And so I totally understand.
Oh, that's why, because it's your fault. It's Indiana's fault because they go and get Kurt Signetti from James Madison. And now they've gone from, and you and I said it, that it's just, oh, well, they're now in the top 10. I was like, no. This is a school that's competing for the Big Ten Conference and should expect to compete. You can go back and look. We said it. We're on the record saying that Indiana was destined for that elite status this season. So with that being said, Indiana definitely, they started a trend. I said Penn State started a trend by firing its head coach in the middle of the season. Doesn't matter what the buyout is. Doesn't matter what the recruiting classes look like down the road. Indiana started a trend with the domino effect of, if you go get the right coach, you can be at the top, not just taking step by step. No, you can, in a season, you can turn it around and go from the laughingstock of your conference to contending for a national championship. At least you should get to the college football playoffs. So, and it's kudos to Indiana for doing that, because I remember, watching Tom Allen and those Indiana teams struggle. I get it. But Jonathan Smith, I thought he would leave on his own accord. I thought that he'd go to UCLA or that he would eventually use, because I thought he was a really good coach. Hey, he succeeded at Oregon State. But I don't think people realize just how much these college football jobs are not a one size fits all. You have to find your niche coach. Some people are going to succeed better at Penn State than others would. Lane Kiffin, for example, I know Lane Kiffin would be a great candidate for Penn State. No, he wouldn't. He's a great candidate, but not for Penn State.
There's a reason he's being thrown around for LSU and Florida and not Penn State, right? I mean, there's just different levels of this, and you're right. Geographics play a big part of this, and just your coaching tree and your coaching history, right? I mean, all of that plays a factor, especially in recruiting, right? We don't talk about that enough, where it's like, man, if you've been in the South your whole life or in the North your whole life, and you try to go to the opposite one, it's really, really difficult. Just ask Brian Kelly. Ask Brian Kelly, a guy that was at Notre Dame forever, goes to LSU, tries to fake an accent and fit in, and it was a disaster from the start. That's why you have to find your guy. Indiana, they did it. Vanderbilt, they did it. They found Clark Lee. He's awesome, and he's going to get a pay raise, whether it's from Vanderbilt or taking another job. I believe he is the lowest paid coach in the SEC. It's like 55th in coaching payments in college football is Clark Lee. And that's a Vanderbilt team that's about to make the college football playoff out of the SEC. Wild stuff, right? But because historic teams who have been so bad, like Indiana and Vanderbilt, you even have Georgia Tech, who's a top 10 team right now, because they're winning games, Zach, and they look good doing it, these big-time programs and fan bases are fired up. They're furious, and they're cutting ties. They're getting people out, and they're making decisions quicker, whether it's good or bad. That's what's happening here in the world of college football that we're looking at.
And it's not even, the fans are upset, the fans are disgruntled. That's an element of it, right? James Franklin literally got booed out of Beaver Stadium. When tens of millions of dollars are thrown around, you don't have an excuse, especially when you're in Penn State's situation. It's one thing. Here's the thing, though. I talked about, hey, Oregon comes into the Big Ten and leapfrogs you, right? But it's also Indiana. Even though Penn State and Indiana didn't get to play each other, they will. But I'm saying with James Franklin versus Kurt Signetti, still, Indiana has leapfrogged Penn State. Oregon used Penn State as a stepping stone to get closer to Ohio State. And that's the issue. It's why do we have better resources, comparable resources, but you're not getting the job done, and you're not even close, and you actually regressed. It was different. Okay, you lose to Ohio State, you lose to Michigan. Okay, you lose to Oregon. We can still justify that. It's not great. We're not happy about it, but we'll let it slide. And then it's just seeing from afar, hey, Oregon's not having these issues. Hey, Indiana's not they self-corrected. And now we're losing to UCLA, Northwestern. So that's where all of this stems from. But as I mentioned here, Jacob, coaches, again, if they land at an ideal spot, which could James Franklin, if Michigan State, excuse me, I got Virginia Tech top of mind, Michigan State, because they're in the mix too for James Franklin, could be a landing spot for Franklin, could be a landing spot for Brian Kelly. So we're going to continue with this coaching carousel chatter on the other side of this break and talk about where Penn State stands in it too, as well as Indiana just cruising along, no issues. That's all coming up next here on this Locked On Crossover.
This Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every single ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat out all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can also feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every single detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. And you can make everyday drives feel like nothing but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We continue with a Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you so much for making both of our shows your first listen or your first watch every single day. Make sure you subscribe to the channels. Drop your thoughts down in the YouTube comments, your coaching predictions, who goes where, who leaves where, or who stays right where they are. Let us know in the YouTube comments down below. And the Big Ten has been fascinating so far in this coaching carousel. That's the word that keeps being thrown around, Zach. And the Big Ten's not done. like, I don't think it's done by any means. James Franklin, he's gone. Michigan State could fire Jonathan Smith. We talked about at the beginning of the season how it could be Maryland and Loxley that decided to get a divorce. And
Not
somehow he has saved his job. May not be the case by the end, but he's still there. And Luke Fickell is, for whatever reason, still in Madison. So do you see more jobs opening up across the Big Ten? And if so, who?
I mean, it depends, right? We don't know what direction, because it's going to be big fish eats little fish. Okay. What if Florida just ends up going with Jed? And speaking of fish, right? That's actually, now I meant it's punny. It's meant to be a pun here. What if Florida doesn't get their preferred, because Marcus Freeman told them no. Yep. What if other candidates, I have an episode with Matt Moscona of Locked On LSU, and he just kind of reset my expectations when it comes to the national perception around a lot of other programs. And he was really hard on Florida. He's like, is Florida that great of a program? Sure, they're good, but it's not the same program that people view it as the program that Urban Meyer was leading and working with. And that's just not the case anymore. So much has changed. But with that being said, right, if Washington happens to open up by proxy, because Jed Fish, that's a job that he would want, and Florida's like, okay, I guess we'll go with you, right? You're not our first choice, but we still like Jed Fish enough to give him a phone call. Or does James Franklin end up at Florida? And then what does that do for schools like Michigan State? If they fire Jonathan Smith, they would want James Franklin. Michigan State should want James Franklin, absolutely, because the reason Michigan State is where it is because the coaches that they keep bringing in can't recruit against Michigan.
Yeah.
And you need somebody, I don't know if James Franklin can or cannot do that, but I imagine that he would be better than Jonathan Smith at that, because that's why Jim Harbaugh struggled a little bit, because Michigan State was still able to have a 50-50 battle there. And it wasn't until Michigan State imploded that Michigan was able to take that massive step forward, because then they dominated the state. If James Franklin can take at least a little bit of that pie, then Michigan State gets back to 8-4, 9-3. Hey, maybe in a good season, right? And it would allow James Franklin to satisfy his ego. I'm still in the Big Ten. I mean, Washington, if Washington opened up, that James Franklin would make a ton of sense at Washington. I've said he'd make a ton of sense at UCLA.
I've thought about UCLA too. I've thought about that.
I'm hearing a lot of Virginia Tech. Again, and this changes so quickly, day by day. I'm hearing that if James Franklin's going to take any job tomorrow, it's probably Virginia Tech, but that could change in November. That could change in December. Who knows at the end of the day? Again, Michigan State isn't open, but we expect it to be. And Brian Kelly should want one of those jobs as well. Wisconsin and Luke Fickell. It's more of a Wisconsin issue than a Luke Fickell issue.
Totally agree. Agree.
But Paul Chris didn't have those problems. And granted, be pre-NIL and all that stuff. I get it. But you just don't niche. The key word is niche. And Brian Kelly wouldn't have to fake an accent at Wisconsin, but you got to do better. You got to do a better job of assimilating, though.
Well, if he needs one, our buddy Ryan Herrings can teach him how to talk Badger. He'll be fine over there. I think it's safe to say, right, for everybody who covers college football or watches college football, the Big Ten is not done. There still are several moves to be made in the coaching changes that are bound to happen. And I think the Big Ten is still going to bring a big name back into the conference, whether it does end up being James Franklin, who returns to the Big Ten, or it's Brian Kelly who comes to the Big Ten, or somebody from the SEC or the Big 12 or the ACC. I mean, there's so many different options, right? And the Michigan State job is just so difficult. You started going into recruiting a little bit, and it's that times 10, because now not only do you have to recruit against Michigan in your own state, you always have to go up against Ohio State for what they are. Penn State's going to have to build their reputation back up in the high school landscape. But from my perspective, look at Indiana. Kurt Signetti has slowly started to penetrate Ohio and Michigan and Illinois and all these different states around the Midwest, because Indiana was never a threat to a team like Michigan or Michigan State in high school recruiting, but we are now. And so that's a really difficult job for Michigan State, and they've got money and they've got some boosters and some alumni that can help them get back to relevancy, and they're going to have to do it. Call me crazy. you're going to have to spend to win in today's college football. I know it's a wild thought, but you're going to have to spend a little money, and Michigan State's going to have to do that. So is it a big name? Is it an up-and-comer? I have no idea, but Michigan State has to find, I think they have to find a new coach. Maryland could still, again, pull that plug. If Luke Fickell takes another job, I mean, it's just crazy to see across the board. And even some of these names from the ACC or Big 12 that are floating out there too, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's almost impossible to keep up with, Zach. I'm just thankful from the Indiana side of things. We locked down Curt Signetti. He's making his money, and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, you don't have any issues. I will say this is more entertaining for me. This is fun. No, I'm not saying that I would rather have this than being a national title contender, but it's the thing was Penn State wasn't going to get to that point this season. That is not what I'm saying here. From Penn State's perspective, I would rather take this step backwards because it was just more of, you were probably going to lose to Ohio State and Indiana with James Franklin anyway. You would have finished 9-3. You would have missed the college football playoff at that point in time. Just rip the Band-Aid off and go in a different direction. So what direction is Penn State going in? It's a fluid situation, man. Every time I have these conversations, it's Matt Rule or Manny Diaz, and here Brian Hartline, really. And this is true. This is factually correct that Brian Hartline is gaining a lot of momentum. Where that puts him in the race is to be determined. But
it'd be a great hire.
It would be a great hire.
Good hire.
Phenomenal hire. Because it's something different. He offers upside. He offers potential. It's not about, but it's uncertain. That's the point of it. It's the uncertainty. He's such a wild card that it could be the greatest move ever, or it's just nothing. It's nothing because it's not like Penn State was winning national championships, Big Ten titles, beating Ohio State every other season. Anything that moves the needle to where you get a win against Ohio State and Michigan, you get a win against Oregon, you win a big game. That's the whole point of it. And I've said this about Brian Hartline. He wouldn't get the next version of Jeremiah Smith, but Penn State wasn't getting the guy after him, or the guy after that guy, or the guy after that guy. Brian Hartline, in theory, should be able to get not necessarily Jeremiah Smith, but the next guy that's ranked below him, or the guy after that, which would still be miles ahead of what Penn State was getting in terms of quarterbacks and wide receivers. So that's why I say I'm co-signing that one. Jeff Brom is now strongly linked to Penn State's coaching opening. Who else? Matt Rule and Manny Diaz are still going to be there, of course. Joe Brady. If I had to, this changes every day, man. But Joe Brady, Matt Rule, Brian Hartline, and Jeff Braun are kind of the top realistic candidates. Mike Elko's still my preferred candidate. Logistics and in a perfect world type of thing.
Sure.
But that's not, as they continue to win, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think what's going to be so fun, and you see these lists go on every single day on the internet, is the coaching vacancy rankings, right? What's the best job in the country? What's the best place to go? Who could pay the most money? Who's ready to win now? Who could win in the next 2 or 3 years? And it's all relative. It's all opinion. It's based off of what fans think, people think, and what boosters are willing to give. But that's what is so much fun about this time of year. I know we're talking about people's jobs, we're talking about lives, we're talking about college kids. I get all of that. But from what you and I do as podcasters every day, it is fun to talk about all the different moving pieces in the coaching carousel of 2025. And what else is fun is talking about games and picking games around the Big Ten. Last week was This week could have some dicey ones too. We'll make our picks and predictions for this week's slate of Big Ten games coming up next on this Locked On Crossover.
And this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, you're lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. You'll love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training tread plus today at onepeloton.com. That is onepeloton.com. It's week 10 in college football, and we're going to make our predictions here for the Big Ten Conference slate. We're going to start with Indiana, go to Penn State and Ohio State, 20-point underdog. Oh, that was supposed to be a top 5 matchup. Now this could be a 4-touchdown deficit for the Nittany Lions. We'll break those down in depth. Also, the night game, USC at Nebraska, potential playoff implications. 7-2 looks pretty good for either of those teams, depending on where that goes. So we start with Indiana. Jacob, catch us up on there's just so much news to cover that we didn't even get into. We're not even talking about the X's and O's of our respective teams. So what's on the horizon right now for Indiana? Because like I said, everything is just smooth sailing here for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I mean, a 50-point win over UCLA last week in a game that I was genuinely worried about from UCLA's momentum and their talent, right, with Nico. I mean, there were some opportunities for that game going into it to be interesting, but when Nico Iamaleava throws a pick 6 on the second play of the game,
that's the Nico we all know and love.
Kind of told us everything we needed to know. And the Hoosiers win 56-6, where Fernando Mendoza barely has to throw the football, and he didn't play the entire fourth quarter. So it was just taking care of business yet again for the Indiana Hoosiers. But the guy that had the pick 6, Aidan Fisher, your All-American linebacker, I think the best linebacker in the country, but I am a little bit biased. He was injured on the first possession of the game or the first quarter of the game. And he didn't play the rest of the way. Now, a lot of that was precautionary because of how the game played out. And you didn't necessarily, that's right, you didn't necessarily need him. And the x-rays were fine. The x-rays were good. He is probable to play this weekend. But the hope is against Maryland and Penn State and Wisconsin and Purdue that you don't have to play them as much as you would against an Oregon or Ohio State or in a playoff game, right? So you got to take care of business and you got to do what you got to do. But the hope is that Aidan Fisher doesn't have to play all that much. And I think your linebackers have been really good beside him and behind him and around him regardless. So good news on Aidan Fisher. One thing I do want to point out, though, for Indiana on the injury front is your kickoff specialist and your long field goal kicker, Frankie. He is banged up and may not play in this game. And he leads the Big Ten, and he's 4th in the nation in touchbacks across college football. Only 3 or 4 kicks have been returned all year against Indiana. Just returned, not for a score, just brought out of the end zone. That's pretty strong. So Indiana has to find a way to overcome that. But look, Maryland's sneaky talented. Malik Washington's the real deal. I just don't think they can hang in this game. Hoosiers are favored by over 3 touchdowns. I like Indiana to win. It is on the road, so you do have to worry about that a little bit. But give me Indiana to win, and give me Indiana to win. Pulling away, but maybe not by 22.5. That's a lot of points.
This is where I would actually ballpark my score prediction. Something like a 42-21. Something along the lines that we're 38-17, right? Maryland's just kind of had some unlucky breaks that they came back down to earth a little bit, but they benefited by playing a really bad Wisconsin team. And then it's like, oh, they're legitimate. Well, Wisconsin's kind of just that bad, but they were close against Washington. They were close against Nebraska. Close doesn't really matter. UCLA starting to build some momentum, and they were close in all of those games. So I wonder if there's any kind of like Penn State, I can relate to this a little bit. These close losses just stack up one by one, where Indiana's just rolling so much. And it's, especially if they jump out to a lead, it's the same thing. UCLA was just like, whoa, we shouldn't be here, man. Maryland might be in the same situation. I will take Indiana to cover, actually.
Okay.
I think because, again, it's the same when you just a true freshman quarterback. I believe that Maryland's only getting bigger, better, and stronger as a team, but it's also the psyche when you stack those losses on top of each other like that. When Mike Loxley was on the hot seat to start the season, I think Indiana and Kurt Signetti does not care. Forget what I said about he'll let off the gas. No, it's not like that at all. So he will prove a point. It doesn't matter against Maryland, and this is no trap game. Penn State's not a scare anymore. You have Purdue, you have Wisconsin. You don't have any we got to protect these guys for later on. No. Give me Indiana by covering the spread. I think 4 touchdowns, maybe even a 5th, is a fair deficit.
Okay, your Nittany Lions heading to Columbus in a game. You said it should have been a top 5 matchup. This in like 6 other games in college football this weekend were supposed to be top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20 games, and the slate is kind of mid because of teams over or underperforming. Penn State being one of those that is clearly underperformed. I mean, are you just folding it in? Are you just pushing everything in and getting up from the table before the game even starts? You guys are almost 3 touchdown underdogs, my man. What's going on?
I mean, I say this with kind of the utmost respects, or I ask for grace when I say this.
Uh-oh.
I really haven't thought about this game, and I don't want to, and I don't want to think about it. I'm speaking genuinely. Because Ohio State is the number 1 team in the country. And then this was supposed to be a top 5 game.
Yeah.
Just players, Drew Aller not being there, right? If Drew Aller was quarterbacking this game, I would give Penn State, even with James Franklin being fired, I would give Penn State such a better chance to pull off the upset. But Matt Patricia's job is so easy here. If he's able to discombobulate Texas and Arch Manning, he's going to do the same thing to Penn State and Ethan Grunkemeyer. It's just where there's levels to this, okay? I think Grunkemeyer is a capable college football quarterback, but he's going into a second start against the number 2 defense in the country and the number 1 team overall. You can only have so much passion, so much heart, right? Going into this game, so Penn State will leave it all out on the football field. They'll be the bull in the china shop. But what does that – Ohio State's just going to out-talent you. You need so many breaks to go in your favor.
Yeah.
Eventually, the pendulum's probably going to swing back to an extent that Penn State is going to get those lucky breaks because they've had all the unlucky breaks this season. The 4 losses that they have combined total of 13 points in 4 losses, back-to-back 1-point losses. The same thing I said about Maryland. It's also weighing on Penn State. Like, you just can't catch a break. Are you going to catch a break against the number 1 team in the country? Probably not. So what I'm expecting here is Penn State will have a strong first half, keep it close, keep it respectable, and then it's just Ohio State's just going to force some turnovers, get great field position, capitalize on it, and it will be over and done with. Score prediction. I'm trying to find places where I can give Penn State some points. I just keep coming back to 38-13, Ohio State.
Okay. All right. Look, I think everything you just said is pretty spot on. So let's rapid fire some of the games that are going on outside of Indiana and Penn State. 11 a.m. Central Time, noon kick on Saturday. Rutgers in Champaign taking on Illinois. Illini favored by around 2 touchdowns. And look, I'll give my pick here. I think Illinois' defense is still legit. I don't think Rutgers can move the football or score the football on Illinois. And the Illini got to find a way to get back on track. How about the Huskies last week, baby? They're still alive to make it to the college football playoff as a dark horse. They took down Illinois, but I like the Illini to bounce back this week.
I wonder if Illinois has had a reset on their expectations, right? That was a team that was supposed to get in the college football playoff, and now that's not happening. Give me Rutgers to cover in a lot of points.
Okay, we continue on. We head to Minneapolis, where Michigan State, a team we talked about a lot early in the show about possibly firing their coach, and another team that I think should. Minnesota and Michigan State. How about PJ Fleck in Minnesota? They put everything they had into the game against Nebraska, the 25th ranked team in the country. They get it done. And then in the most Minnesota PJ Fleck way possible, they just lay an absolute egg against Iowa, of all teams, Zach. Iowa. And now you got people saying that the Hawkeyes are a top 25 team. Just stop. Just stop with this. Stop with the bogus conversations. Michigan State, Minnesota. I mean, I'll take Minnesota because they're at home, I think. That's about all I got.
Yeah, that was it. I think it's who is more demoralized here. Michigan State, inexperienced quarterback. You don't know. The head coach might be fired, and Minnesota's only getting 3 points. I think there's some ghost points that are being I would put Minnesota as a 7 to 10 point favorite in this game. And that's not because I believe in the Golden Gophers. It's just what Michigan State is dealing with. So give me Minnesota to cover. I guess I got to double check the total there.
I see 44.5.
I would probably say under because I don't trust either of these teams to score much. So I would say Minnesota to cover and the under.
That is really disgusting. Night game at the Big House in Ann Arbor. Any chance Purdue goes in and gets their first Big Ten win of the season when they take on a top 25 Michigan Wolverines team?
Yeah, sure. No, Michigan is just look. Purdue. I like the way that Barry Odom has them playing. I'm almost tempted to say that they're going to cover, but with no look ahead spot. Northwestern, Michigan can fully focus on this game. If like Ohio State was on the horizon, I would think differently. Michigan's just again, they'll be able to out talent them even if they're not focused. So give me Michigan to cover. Purdue can move the football, so Michigan will have to be a little more up tempo there. Give me the over as well.
Michigan will play a lot of defense. They'll run the football. They'll dominate time of possession. I do like Purdue to cover, though. If this is still hovering 3 touchdowns by Saturday, give me Purdue to cover, but ain't no way they win this game. Then the nightcap. All right, the nightcap, top 25, USC, the 23rd ranked team in the country, on the road in Lincoln, taking on Nebraska. Both teams with 2 losses, both teams with 3 wins in the Big Ten. This should have been a much bigger game, a much bigger deal than it is. I don't think this has any playoff implications. I think both of these teams are done. I think they're out. I think they're 2 in barbecue with their losses on the schedule. USC, Nebraska should be a really good game where the Trojans are favored by about a touchdown.
I mean, if both these teams finished, one of these teams finished 10-2, right?
Not happening.
And Nebraska, see, that's the thing, though. Nebraska, winnable against UCLA, winnable against Penn State. Winnable. Iowa would probably be favored in that game. It's a lot clearer than USC. So I'm saying it has playoff implications of you're still standing.
Yeah,
the team that loses is completely knocked out.
Yeah,
who that team is. Hey, look, both of these teams can score. So if you think that Nebraska can't keep up with USC, you're mistaken. Both of these offenses are going to go at it. This is going to be a shootout type of game. Give me USC by a field goal, though. I think 6.5 at home for Nebraska is a lot of points and a lot of cushion. But USC still wins because I just think they're the more talented and better coach team.
I like that. I'll go 31-28 USC. I think they find a way to hold off Nebraska late. Even though it's on the road, I'll take USC to get it done.
I'd say even more points than that, honestly, maybe 38-35. It's just going to be an all out because it's a winner take all type of situation there. Your season's over if you lose. So that's going to do it for this episode here, this crossover episode talking all things Big Ten. He is Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. My name is Zach Seyko, the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Let us know your thoughts, your predictions, your comments are appreciated down below. Subscribe to our respective YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest around Penn State and Indiana. Jacob, thank you so much for the time. Always look forward to this every single week.
Yep. Always a good time, my friend. Appreciate it.